Well, that didn't last long. The Incredible Hulk's publication history, much like other Marvel heroes, is very interesting. But the reason why it's interesting is because he met a fate similar to the X-Men in the 60s. Having a short 6-issue run that lasted between 1962 to early 1963, there's a lot to unpack in just 6 issues, believe it or not. So without further ado, let's get this review underway. Most of the stories were split into 5-parters and then in time put together to make a full-length issue. The story starts off familiar for those that know the Hulk and his origin, with Bruce Banner testing a gamma bomb, when an unaware teenage orphan named Rick Jones steps into the blast radius. Going out there to get young Jones, Bruce Banner is betrayed by Igor and is hit by the gamma bomb fallout, having survived and gaining superpowers by turning into the Incredible Hulk, but only at night. Yeah, you see, this whole first run is kind of riddled with stuff like that. If you didn't know, it was supposed to be Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, with Bruce being himself during the day and the Hulk at night. For those that didn't know, this might be weird, not being how it is known in modern day. Also, Hulk can talk in full sentences and is a nefarious presence, leaving it up to Bruce and Rick to save the day. Yeah, the Hulk isn't much of a hero. He only looks out for himself, is violent, temperamental, he hates humans, and he really doesn't like Rick. On some occasions, he even abuses Rick. Bruce is the opposite. He doesn't like violence and is seemingly a pacifist. He's mild-mannered, quiet, and somewhat shy. He can be quite heroic, though, when he needs to be. Just look at his actions in the first 5 pages in the first issue. He seems to like Rick's company and trusts him enough. Rick Jones is the one with the most development, which is funny because he's partially the catalyst for why this happens in the first place, taking a dare from fellow teens to go in the blast zone, unaware that a bomb was launched for testing. Rick goes from a lonely, abandoned teen to a teen who takes a stand to save the day, despite everyone brushing him off and treating him like a kid. He got a good arc in my opinion. He's sticking by Dr. Banner's side until the whole Hulk situation can be resolved, and is a pretty good friend through and through. Betty Ross isn't exactly the most interesting character of the cast, and that's because she wasn't around for half the run. And then on top of that, lack of story focusing on her character. Though she does get some character traits, mainly her being afraid of the Hulk, constantly worrying about Bruce when he doesn't show up, and straight up tells Bruce that he's attractive. She's got guts, I guess. Aside from that, there's really not much to this Ross. But the other Ross has something going for himself. General Thunderbolt Ross is someone that doesn't like Bruce, as he suspects that the Hulk and Bruce are linked around issue number 4. And he thinks Bruce is a milksop. Whatever that is. What's a milksop? Well, don't throw a temper, Dad. That's just what those young buckaroos call a wimp. Yeah, he doesn't see what Betty sees in Bruce, and for that reason, he doesn't really care what he has to say outside of his scientific prowess. He also made it his mission to hunt down the Hulk after the Hulk seemingly attacks Betty at the Ross residence. He sees the Hulk as a monster that terrorizes the public. Now, you may think he's all bad, but not really. He's not a bad father, and even at one point gave Rick some advice to stay in school and worry about his studies. So there's some redeemable qualities on his character. The writing in the first 2 issues are just fine. They're good reads. But by the time the 3rd issue rolls around, that's where the book starts hitting problems. But I want to discuss that right before I give the verdict. The art is classic Jack Kirby, along with the designs of the Hulk and the designs of the villains. It's all good stuff. My only gripe is, once in a while, a character may look off, but that's very minor, of course. No offense to the King. Professor Hulk and World War Hulk can be seen as teased even then, as the foundations were somewhat seen in the first couple of stories. I like that first issue as it was a good read from start to finish. The second issue is my favorite of the first batch of stories, and then there's the rest. Now back to issue 3 and onward. See, starting with issue number 3, I feel like Stan Lee had trouble with where to go with the story. As much like the characters in the book, he might have felt cornered, not knowing what to do next. On top of the fact that when he did come up with an idea, it wouldn't last for more than an issue before he changed course. Yet again, with the comics direction feeling muddled, and readers, including myself, not feeling really engaged with what's going on. I get he was working on multiple books during 1963. The Fantastic Four, Ant-Man, Thor, Iron Man was making his debut, and Amazing Fantasy number 15 gave birth to Amazing Spider-Man number 1's double-length issue the same month that The Incredible Hulk number 6 came out, which happened to be the last issue for the first run. Even though the book was on its way out the door, the final issue of the first run was a strong finish, and I really liked it right down to how the villain was defeated with a very creative solution. And if you didn't know, Jack Kirby did not pencil issue number 6. Another legendary artist worked on it, the legendary Steve Ditko. Though his comic ended there, Stan hadn't given up on the Hulk and wrote him in guest appearances in the Fantastic Four, Ant-Man, Thor, and the first 3 Avengers stories until he built up enough popularity to share a comic with Ant-Man and the Wasp in Tales to Astonish number 60. From there, the Hulk only got better. Now, would I say it's worth reading his first 6 issues? Yes and no. It's a mixed bag. I will say the concepts are there, just not fully realized. The first run is just passable. It's decent. This will probably be my last full comic book review for the next while, for about 2 to 3 months. But I'll still be coming out with comic book minis twice a month, or at the very least, I'm gonna try. I'm Lino Mars of the MMCA Productions crew, and as always, true believers and newcomers alike,
Excelsior!